today my buddy TradeMark G and I get together and we chat with a real-life professor of rhetoric, Ben McCorkle, to get an idea of just how much words matter. I'm Steve Anderson.
I'm TradeMark G.
And you're listening to Story Flakes.
Your title is?
I am an associate professor of English. So I'm in the English department at OSU, and I teach on the Marion campus primarily. So that's kind of my gig.
You've also written a book titled Rhetoric Delivery as Technological Discourse, Historical Study.
That is the title. Okay.
Yeah.
It's an expensive title. Let's see. You're associate professor of English. I'm curious. So when someone asks you, what the hell is rhetoric? How do you answer that to like someone who doesn't really know the background of it? Like, what's the short version of that?
So one of the ways I explained to my students what rhetoric is basically you pay attention to the parts of communication that are designed to persuade people, right? So it's basically, how does communication work? How do you play with the nuts and bolts in such a way that you get people listening to you to think or act a certain way or feel a certain way? I mean, in a nutshell, that's what rhetoric is. It's about figuring out how your communication moves people. So it's basically, how does communication work?
When I heard this record, I said, who is that?
This is, I thought, something that was, I don't know, optional or puffery or... So how do you get to teach something like that in a university setting?
You have plugged in to like the common cultural narrative about rhetoric in the 21st century. The idea that it's superfluous, that it's basically empty words without meaning behind them, right?
So is that good or bad?
What? What good or bad?
Rhetoric, because I think when you describe what you do, it's kind of being able to manipulate people. Is that right?
Well, there is part of that history. Rhetoric can be marshaled for forces that uplift and forces that crush, but I'm inclined to think that, it's good, right?
Let the fun begin.
So, like, over the years, you see different versions of that argument. Like, give me a scenario. I just ran over your dog, right?
And you're wanting to smooth it over with me, right? I'm going to skate on out of here.
So in this scenario, I accidentally ran over your dog. Okay. So I'm going to smooth it over. And so I'm going to think, I could go in and just say, Steve, I ran over your dog. It got under my front tires and I didn't see it. And that dog is stupid and it got what it deserved.
That's not good rhetoric.
That is not good rhetoric. Alternatively, I could say something like, Steve, we're bros, right? You know I would never do anything to hurt you. I've got some distressing news to tell you, and you might want to sit down because...
Before I do, let me just get my dog.
So at the end of the day, it's all rhetorical. I could not say shit to you about the fact that I ran over your dog and just get the hell out of there, right? But I felt compelled, and now I have to think about the right way to do it. And once I start doing that, and once I made that decision...
And you're wanting to try out your powers of rhetoric on me.
I think we all do it. We're just not as deliberate or conscious about it. And a rhetorical perspective makes all that stuff present and brings it to the forefront. Yeah. I'm going to stick with that answer.
Okay.
Because you guys do this all the time, right? You talk to people.
Occasionally. Yeah. You're number 100 on our guest list this week.
Yeah, I've heard about that before.
We're so happy we came here, even if it's not for real. I had a feeling I shouldn't have done this.
Do you think when you're in a conversation with someone and they're trying to, get their point across, you're just like, does it become a battle of the rhetoric will?
It depends on who the opponent is. I say
I like your use of the word opponent.
Yeah. Well,
do you see everybody as an opponent?
I'm deeply distrustful of people's motives.
Like if two guys were starting a podcast and they invited you to a podcast recording.
Mm-hmm.
Too late to make a judgment on that one, really.
And here we are. Somehow it happened. Well, no, okay, so I was joking earlier, but that framing of rhetoric does exist. That idea of debate is adversarial or combative.
It's drama, man. It's good.
And I'm kind of resistant to that framing, though, because like the antagonism, like it doesn't have to be about antagonism. It could be about like, I have a way of seeing the world and I want you to see it too, and let's just have an open conversation, and hopefully I'll bring you around to my way of seeing things. Or maybe in that conversation we'll come up with a third way of seeing things that is good for both of us. That's
You don't know what I mean, do you?
No.
Your life will never be the same again.
What's the opposite of rhetoric?
Well, it depends on who you ask. There are some people that might say the opposite of rhetoric is violence.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That.
Is that because you can't figure out how to throw your rhetoric bomb at them, so you just like, I'm going to punch you in the face?
Yeah, the failure of rhetoric. Kenneth Burke called war a disease of cooperation.
What?
Well, the idea that we could all get together and agree to do something as batshit crazy as go to another country and start killing everybody, and then like that, like how do you get to that point? Now, I tend to think.
Wait. Say it again. He thinks what now?
War. He called war a disease of cooperation. I tend to see something like war that's a rhetorical
failure.
Well, I don't see it as a failure. I see it as the success of a certain type of rhetoric. You get into warfare because of arguments people make.
Oh, yeah.
Because of PowerPoints that Colin Powell delivers, from the UN or whatever.
This is far from industrial, man.
Is that considered like evil rhetoric? Is there evil rhetoric?
I'd say yes.
Yeah. I mean, so absolutes make me uncomfortable. So a word like evil kind of makes me uncomfortable. But
the evil person doesn't think they're being evil.
Yeah, they think they're justified.
I mean, Hitler was pretty evil, but he loved dogs, but he did some evil stuff.
He had a soft side. He was an artist.
Yeah, but he did some evil
Vegetarian.
shit.
Yeah,
I heard he was gassy.
Yes. So missing his left testicle.
What? Really?
Yes.
How do you know that?
Yikes.
Thanks for listening. This is Story Flakes.